there is still lots of opportunity ahead for any of these companies, Paramount or otherwise, as long as they invest in the right direction for the future. And basically, none of them are. That doesn't mean that they can't. But I've argued that, certainly for the ad-supported platforms, the pathway forward is to become a platform, meaning you got to eliminate this idea of being a television-based company.
Okay, well, this is so inflammatory, what you're saying, Brian. I'm going to cut you off. For example, I just saw on Variety, there's 5 pilots this season of across 7 networks. 2 of the networks don't even have any pilots. What is the Wieser prescription to save streaming?
Well, I think that subscription-based pricing is one thing. There's a lot of room for pricing increases. That's one thing. There has to be a lot of investment in programming, and good programming too, right? Not just cheap programming. So that's part of it. I think that actually this is going to be a little bit of a different view, but I think that if they actually kept investing and didn't put the brakes on it, if they actually tried to become a global platform, if they doubled their spending on streaming programming, for example, and made sure that they were a more meaningful platform, they would have had liftoff trajectory, I think, in a way that would have helped sustain the business. The problem is that it's never going to be as profitable as the business is replacing. And I don't think that most companies understood that you're going from what would have been a 30 or 40% margin business to one that's more like a 10 or 20% margin business. How do you make up for that? You make sure you're 2 or 3 times bigger. And it makes sure that you apply your platform globally. You limit how much you are giving up your economics to other partners, which Paramount was doing certainly in much of Europe. They kind of underinvested elsewhere before kind of throwing in the towel with Sky Showtime.
So, Brian, just in terms of total ad spend, give us a sense of is there enough ad dollars to support broadcast and cable television as we all know it, as we all grew up with, or is it all going digital?
Well, this is where I'm going. If you're competing, and we're talking about 2 kind of parallel but separate things. One is subscriptions, getting consumers to spend money on subscriptions, right? In the United States, there's about $140 billion a year spent on subscriptions, video in various forms, right? Streamers right now are only tapping into about $35-40 billion of that. There's still a lot of money to be gained from building a subscription.
This is brilliant. And we have such a respect for Brian Wieser, going back to Tom Shut Up, Facebook will be successful. Brian, what's going on at the lunch tables in Hollywood? They're all sitting there with their perfect water for some perfect well in New Zealand. Okay, great. What are they actually talking about if they're so far off the mark of the economic opportunity?
I think that there's this inherent conservatism. It's true in most organizations, right? Like, there's a handful of people who can make decisions to make radical pivots or meaningful investments or bet the farm kind of actions. And those people would be the likes of Sherry Redstone, right? I actually think that Bob Bakish was doing the best he could within the constraints that he had to work with, from everything I know. I think that the problem is there are a small number of people who can do it. And then they have to be able to persuade investors of their plan. And most aren't willing to do that. They think investors need their short-term returns. Investors need short-term returns when they're not given a persuasive reason to believe otherwise.
Brian, as you step back here, you think about the Paramounts, the Warner Brothers Discoveries, I don't know, maybe even Comcast, I don't know. Who kind of is going to be standing here 5 years from now other than Netflix and maybe Disney?
Well, Comcast and Disney are definitely well positioned because they do have so many other revenue streams. They can sustain and support this transition to a much less profitable industry, right? And that will buy them time. And if nothing else, you can grow when you take share of a shrinking business. And so that's all good for them. I think that the industry level opportunity, though, as I say, on the subscription side, invest more heavily, not less heavily, in content. You can build a bigger business and do it globally because there are real efficiencies. Netflix has taught us this, haven't they? Other than Amazon and Apple, right, everyone else has given up. Okay, on the advertising side, the fact that it's video, it's professional, it's premium video, doesn't matter like it used to. It just doesn't matter.
Yep.
Okay.
And here's what I'm saying, that today's studios, owners of networks, need to think differently about their advertising platforms. They need to be indifferent about the fact that they've got professional video. They need to be able to embrace the likes of YouTube and user-generated content.
Right.
They need to be able to embrace other content